Hey guys, today we're gonna do reorder paragraph with PD Melbourne. There are some tips that I wanted to give you, and I want you to follow them before you do the reorder paragraph. Reorder paragraph. A lot of my students feel that it's a bit complex, but I tell them that it's all about the technique. So if you know the technique, it becomes quite easy for you. So let's go through the techniques, and then we'll do an example. So what we have in front of us is the first tip that I would like to give it to you, and that is that when you read through the text, you have to make sure that you underline the important text and words. So the question that somebody will ask me is that, hey, this is a computerized test. I mean, how would you underline that? So what I mean by underlining is that when you're doing the practice with your friends before the exam for the reorder paragraph, it's better to underline. And when you're in the exam, just underline that visually, like more like you're noticing the important points. That what are the important points before you proceed onwards. Secondly, it is a compulsory thing that you notice the pronouns and linkers at the start of the sentence. And you have to make sure that you remember that the first sentence will never begin with words like as a result, moreover, in addition, or these. I mean, there are many words like that. So a first sentence, you have to, because you have to point out the first sentence, that amongst all of the options, which one should be the first sentence. So if you choose sentences starting with as a result or moreover in addition, then I'm quite sure that is not the first sentence, to be honest. This you should look for other options, because actually these words are a continuation of the previous scenario. So like for example, when it says as a result, so it means that a statement was made earlier on, and this statement is just like and in addition to it. When it says as a result, I mean, because there was something which of which consequence the later thing is telling, if that makes sense to you. Okay, so once you have found the first sentence successfully, assumingly, so now it's time that you find the appropriate linking words and ideas that will follow along. Okay, let me tell you something that a lot of people ignore, and this is a common mistake, and to be honest, this is common sense. So what happens is that dates always go in order. So for the sake of argument, suppose let's say Pakistan was made in 1947. Okay, so obviously I'm gonna say 1947, and then I'm gonna say the first constitution came, suppose, in 1956, and the second constitution came in 1970, and then the latest constitution, which is the one used right now, came in 1973. So I mean, these things are in order. I would never say that after 1947 the current is 1973, then I go back to 1956, and then I come back to another one, and then I come back to 2015 or 16. So I mean, that doesn't make sense. It always comes in an order. So make sure you recognize the order of dates. And not only the dates, it's also about the events. Sometimes it's not only the dates, it's also the events. I mean, when if in a scenario you're not given the dates, then you look at the chain of events, that okay, using a bit of a common sense, you say, okay, this thing will obviously come back after this thing and this thing and this thing. Okay, also again, coming in the further definition of linkers or linking words, furthermore or moreover, there's a high chance they will not come in the second sentence. So like if the first sentence, there's a high chance a sentence that will follow will have in addition or also, but never furthermore or moreover, because they are usually for points that are on the third or later stages. And lastly, cohesive markers like firstly and secondly, or thirdly, fourthly, fifthly. I mean, if you're lucky enough to get these ones, then obviously I think everybody can make sense that okay, firstly and then secondly and then thirdly will come. So this is how we do it. So now let's do an example, and the solution for the example, you can see my Facebook page, facebook.com/pt Melbourne, and if you can post your answers on it, and I'll get back to the ones that are correct, and I'll say that okay, this one was correct, but this is the question. I'll give you a hint and then you give me an answer. Okay, I'm not going to show the answer in this because otherwise there's no point. You should think about it yourself too. So we've got about 5 sentences in this, and you have to figure out. First, you have to read all of them. So I'm gonna start like, but in Scotland, 3 banks are still allowed to issue banknotes. When this bank was founded in 1695, Scots coinage was in short supply and of uncertain value compared with English, Dutch, Flemish, or French coins. To face growth of trade, it was deemed necessary to remedy this lack of adequate currency. The first Scottish bank to do this was the Bank of Scotland. In most countries, it is only the government through their central banks who are permitted to issue currency. So when you reading this composition, I know it's not in order, but at least you get an idea that they're talking about a bank and how it issued, and how Scotland started issuing currency, and then there is one date that's given. So I mean, this is the idea that you need to get into your head. I mean that you've got the story, what's going on. So now you'll see that a bank is made, currency is issued, and so this chain of events would be in an order. So you look for a first sentence that should be the first one. So if a sentence starts with but, definitely not the first sentence. When this bank was founded means that something before it, this event has happened. So this is not the first sentence. To face growth of trade, it was deemed necessary. It means that to face growth of trade, it means like something has been said before. So I mean, definitely not this one. The first Scottish bank to do this. When it says to do this, what? I mean, it means something was said before it. So in most countries, it is only the government through their central banks who are permitted to issue currency. This is the sentence that comes first, because there is no background to this sentence, if that makes sense to you guys. There's no background to this sentence. It stands alone. It can stand alone. It is a standing alone sentence. So we've got this thing. Now we figure out the second sentence. So in most countries, it is only the government through their central banks who are permitted to issue currency. So the second sentence would be, which one it should be? But in Scotland, 3 banks were still allowed to issue banknotes. Would that be second sentence? Yes, that would be the second sentence, because it carries the meaning of the first sentence after the second sentence. So it says, but in Scotland, 3 banks were still allowed to issue banknotes. So it is like, when the first sentence says that in most countries it is only the government. Now in Scotland scenario, only 3 banks are allowed to issue. So I mean, can you see this thing? The story is being carried forward, and then you'll see that this one is going to come. The first Scottish bank to do this was the Bank of Scotland. So now this is an explanation. Amongst the 3 banks, the first Scottish bank to do this was the Bank of Scotland. And now when this bank was founded in 1695. So when it says when this bank, so it's like which bank it's talking about. So it was talking about the first bank, the Bank of Scotland. Scots coinage was in short supply and of uncertain value compared with Dutch, Flemish, or French coin. And then we've got the last sentence in front of us because all other options are chosen. So it's like, to face growth of trade, it was deemed necessary to remedy this lack of adequate currency. So if you see that, like I told you, once a first step was to read everything and make a map of events in your mind. Second sentence is to take out the sentence that stands alone, that be the first sentence, and then you have only 4 options left. Amongst them, it will be very easy for you to take out which option is comes the second, and then the third, fourth, and the fifth option to form the whole thing. So I hope this video was valuable to you. In PD Melbourne, we do a number of courses one-to-one. We've got expert teachers that help you out. So if you need further tips, you're more than welcome to comment, you ask questions, or if you want coaching, you're more than welcome to attend. So I hope everybody performs excellent in their test, and I wish everyone best of luck. See you guys. Bye.